Okay, so in a previous video, I showed you how to do an HDR merge using Photoshop HDR Pro. I'm going to show you now how to take that image from Photoshop HDR Pro back to Lightroom and what you can do with that. This video is probably going to be just about 5-6 minutes or so. And this is the final image that I created. As I promised in that other video, I was going to show you this technique as well. This technique is really great for doing more photorealistic HDR merges to get all of the detail in the shadow and the highlight areas as opposed to the more wild artistic ones. So I've got this image that I captured on a tripod. And I did a 5-stop HDR bracket. So you can see this one right here is at a 50th of a second, 5, 6, and 100. This one's at a 13th of a second, a 25th of a second, and 100th of a second, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these images. I am going to right-click and go to Edit In, Merge to HDR Pro in Photoshop. It's going to then send them on over to Photoshop. We're going to wait while it does its processing thing, lines them all up. Okay, now that we've gone through all of that, make sure that it is set to 32-bit mode. This slider here just shows you the basically white point that the image is capable of. This isn't going to affect anything in the final image. It's just allowing you to see what the best highlight range available is. So I'm just going to click OK. It's going to create the HDR file. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as a TIFF file. So we're going to call this wall TIFF. And it's going to bring up this dialog, and we're going to save it as a 32-bit float. Okay. And now I can close this file out. I do not want to save that one. I'm going to go over here to Lightroom, and for whatever reason, you have to re-import it when you do it that way. So I'm going to go and find that image. Most of the time, Lightroom will just go ahead and put it in the same folder, but with this method, for whatever reason, it won't. Okay, so there's my wall TIFF. I'm going to import that now. And go to the develop module. Okay, so what's great about this is now you'll see that I have a much greater range. So I've got 10 stops of exposure plus and minus that I can adjust this image. Whereas on just a regular file, it's going to be about 3 stops. I've also got a lot more control over the highlights. So I'm going to bring those highlights down all the way, and I'm going to take my shadows and I'm going to bring them up all the way. I also like to, if you hit down the Option key on a Mac and drag your slider for the black points, you can drag until you see it start to clip the blacks. Same thing on the whites. And once I start to clip the whites, I'm going to back off a little bit. That's just one of my quick and easy adjustments. I'm going to go over here and boost the clarity a little bit because I like to. I'm going to boost the saturation a little bit because I like to. And maybe a touch more on the contrast. What you can also do with this is use the gradient tool. You can use the brush tool to selectively go into areas and adjust them as you want in just those selective areas, as opposed to doing the HDR merge in Photoshop, it's global. It's the whole image that's being affected. But if I want to adjust exposure or contrast or clarity, saturation on this image in just one specific area, I can do that. I want to boost up that blue a little bit, so I'm going to go over here to my hue saturation panel. I'm going to grab this little selector right here, and all I have to do is hold it over the area that I want to adjust, and then with my mouse I can raise and lower the saturation in that area. Never mind the crazy dog. I'm going to go over here to luminance, same thing. I want to bring down the luminance a little bit. I want to deepen up that sky. Okay, I like that quite a bit. Okay, so then I'm essentially done in this case. I may go back over to Photoshop. I'll go edit in Photoshop CS6, do some tweaking with the sharpening, but for the most part, go over here to sharpen, smart sharpen. It's my favorite. It's a bit much. Preview. Yep, punch that up a little bit. Save it. And I like it. So that's how you use Lightroom to do an HDR adjustment. Be sure to subscribe if you want to be notified of new videos, and on the blog you can subscribe to it and get an exclusive newsletter and notifications whenever I post new lessons, tips, reviews, that sort of thing. So check it out.